This is Robert Murtolacci, the MindShare Learning Report. I'm fortunate to have a MindShare Learning moment with Tim Gard, our K-12 editor, who's just back from the BETT conference in London, England. And thank you for joining me this afternoon, Tim.
My pleasure, Rob. Cheers, as they would say in the UK.
No doubt. So here you were at BETT, and we were down at the Florida Education Technology Conference. So it's a great opportunity to reflect and compare notes, and in a different format. You know, we're trying something new using Aver recording tool and Skype, and as you know, we want to be innovative and be engaging. And talking heads, I understand, are better than just audio podcast. So
No doubt.
audience will be the ones who make the decision for us, no doubt, in the end. So, yeah, so it was a big conference, lots of delegates, I understand, probably the largest in the world.
Yeah, it is. You know, there over the course of the 4 days, they estimated 45,000 visitors to this conference. So, you know, it's huge. I mean, it's massive. I think it's around 20,000. And the other side of it is in a brand new conference center, the XL Center, which in the Olympics was used for boxing and gymnastics. This place is massive. I mean, it's huge. It had a real, interestingly enough, a real North American feel to it, whereas previously it was in the Olympia building, which was kind of intimate. It was big, but it just sort of, they outgrew the Olympia, and so XL was a perfect place to go.
Very cool. And we were at the FETC at the Florida Education Technology Conference. There's a program, and equally, you know, there was a lot of excitement and a lot of momentum. It was pretty packed. The attendance was up. So, you know, when we talk about a digital revolution, the momentum's certainly there, and there's a desire for education leaders to really learn and understand where the trends are going, and that's perhaps the value that we can offer in this short discussion in terms of what we saw. And one of the things I found, and I don't know if you'll agree, but here's a brochure I got. Google was on fire. The Google booth was packed. They had lots of presentations. Google in education has been, you know, the notion of free is very compelling, but perhaps we can talk a little bit about what you saw in that regard. And you know, Smart was there and announcing their new lines, and so over to you.
Yeah, you know, interestingly enough, I mean, I don't think that FETC saw a whole lot of Microsoft other than, you know, the various vendor booths obviously showcasing Windows 8. However, Microsoft was a major sponsor of the BETT conference, and they, in fact, sponsored the speaking venue area, which was like a coliseum set up in the middle of the XL Center. And they had a big presence. Google was there. Every half hour, I think they're presenting something new. A lot of interest, a lot of educators sitting down and listening to what they had to offer. Because of course, mentioned it's free. It's somewhat seamless, and of course, you know, people want to use it. So it's great.
Well, that's interesting. You know, Microsoft was present. I think they only had a 10 by 10 booth at FETC. So they've got that's you know, a big nut to crack. I mean, the momentum that they're building. Microsoft has got some interesting products that they've introduced to education. They got the Pro Surface device coming out. Tablets were the rage, and so was content, e-textbooks, e-books, lots of apps. So, you know, it's analogous to what in the dot-com area when we were moving from the CD-ROM to the internet at that time. Now we're moving from, you know, the internet, and, you know, it's the app. You know, what's the app and what's the digital book? So it was interesting to see it from that perspective at FETC. But what about on your end?
You know, interesting enough, Rob, maybe perhaps they've taken it a step further, but sort of the catchphrase that I picked up from a tweet was mass customization. So there was a lot of online platforms being built for mobile devices. and for tablets and smartphones, which is quite interesting. RM Education had something for that where they were tweaking Windows 8. There was another company called Frog, which is a UK company that's been in this about 12 years, and they came out with something brand new this year, which was an online platform for tablets and mobile devices of any kind, so kind of platform agnostic, or device agnostic rather. And so it's kind of neat. It's taking all of this learning and developing sort of this mass center of working with whatever product you need to work with. So that was a new. RM Education, of course, had the same sort of idea where they were tweaking Windows 8 for use in the classroom, and so a lot of things around that. So it was kind of beyond the device and beyond apps. It's like, okay, let's develop an online platform so that we can bring it all together and work at that level, make it easy for students and for obviously the teachers.
Interesting. So when I was bringing RM to North America, one of the things I found when I attended BETT a number of times, consulting to RM, the learning frameworks were more advanced. They were more advanced in the way of interactive whiteboards and the uptake there because the government funded heavily for the acquisition. Perhaps we can turn our attention to SMART. There were a couple of announcements there, and what are they making more effective use of these boards, and is SMART evolving and embracing some of the tablet technology and where the whole social learning component is going?
Well, SMART was, I talked to a number of SMART personnel people, and, there seems to be a new energy about the company. And perhaps that's because a new president who started in October, and he's really, I think, got them focused on what they need to be focused on. And what I did see there, the products they announced were, number one, the interactive projector they have, which was finger and or pen-based, and it was precise. I mean, it worked really well. I was able to work with it, and I didn't have any issues. It was responsive, worked the way it should, and so I was quite amazed by that. And again, the price point, which was very interesting, $2,000. So you think, hey, I don't need to get a projector and a whiteboard. I just need a projector. So I asked the question, well, then why would anybody buy an interactive whiteboard? And their response was, well, you know what, that's not going to go away. And I think they're right. I think it's going to take some time for schools and teachers to adapt to the new technologies. In fact, they were even bringing in sort of the LCD screens that were interactive. And I think in ISTE in San Antonio, they're going to probably showcase a bigger plasma or LCD display that's interactive. And I think that's probably where they're eventually going to go because that technology is cheaper.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of SMART, small world, and it was fortuitous that you linked up with one of our national contest winners who was there at the SMART booth.
Yeah, that's right. Ian Fogarty, he was there with SMART, and he was working in their collaborative classroom, taking one of those key phrases from 21st century learning. And Ian's an amazing teacher. He was there, and the amount of interest in what he was showing. One of those things, which is another thing that SMART announced, was extreme collaboration, which is a third-party development that works within Notebook 11 that allows, it's device agnostic, it's web-based, so students can bring their device in, log into Stream Collaboration, and respond to whatever the teacher is doing. They can send pictures to Notebook, they can send text responses, and just phenomenal stuff, worth investigating.
Excellent. And there were some other Canadian influences there at BETT as there were at FETC. Perhaps you can touch on that.
Well, I mean, the one that I did notice, there's always going to be a Canadian impact there at UK, was a company called Shobi out of Edmonton, and they had a piece of software that you could load. Well, it was web-based, also an app you could load on your iPads that teachers could send work to the student, and the students could submit work back to the teacher, which is not an easy thing to do on iPads if you didn't have the software. It's a web-based tool.
Fantastic. And we ran into a number of companies down at FETC as well, and SMART was there, as well as Pharonics, Epson, a client of ours who has a good presence in Canada. And it's great to see the influence from an innovation standpoint that Canadian companies are making, and sometimes we don't embrace them fully, do we? And ETSP as well was another one.
No, that's right. Canada has great software developers, and there's a lot of ed tech startups in the Canadian community. One of the things is, and you see it at all these conferences, it's almost whoever has the greatest marketing dollars makes the greatest impact. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the greatest stuff. And so with your while, working through the various booths and asking questions and saying, hey, is this going to make it? Lots of energy and innovation happening. There's no doubt about it, whether it's Canadian or Finnish or what have you. And that's the other thing I noticed about BETT is there was a huge international presence from the Middle East, from Scandinavian countries, from North America. So it was really a worldwide conference. A lot of U.S. companies as well.
Very cool, and that speaks to the whole notion around global learning and 21st century learning and our involvement with the C21 Canada initiative and the summit upcoming. That certainly is very prevalent at FETC. What was the talk around 21st century learning? Are they beyond that, or is it just happens? It's like technology, but you don't say you're using technology when you pick up your cell phone, as an example.
Yeah, I mean that catchphrase 21st century learning is there. I think it's talked about more as I was talking about in the smart classroom. They called it the collaborative classroom. So the emphasis was on those soft skills that we need to develop with students. So the collaborative piece, the problem solving piece, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these companies were really or the UK focus was more on, okay, the individual skills we need to develop, and so less of the catchphrasing sort of thing going on.
Right.
I'm sure that happened at FETC too. However, it was really sort of taken by, the focus on the soft skills in particular and what could we do to develop them.
Neat. And I was fortunate to connect with my alma mater, Pepperdine University's Masters in Learning Technology had their week-long camp meetup at FETC, as they do annually, and so I spent some time with them, and they honored me with a memento for having started their alumni chapter. So it's always good to connect with professors. Thank you, professors and students, and really, they're at the forefront of innovation. They do a lot of tinkering, and I'm advising one of the student projects on a startup. They're all challenged with startups. And speaking of startups, there certainly were a lot of startups that we came across. Plan Board from that spun out of the University of Waterloo was there with us, and we were also there promoting Connect 2013 that's happening May 6th and 7th in Niagara Falls, Canada, which we encourage people to submit to present, as well as there's exhibitor and sponsorship opportunities. So there was a lot going on. We had a booth presence, and our partnership with FETC was fabulous. We were interested to learn that besides Floridians, Canadians were the most well-attended delegates beyond some of the northern U.S. border states, which says something,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think it's just a warm place to go, right, during January.
Well, let's hope there's, some real keeners that were there for professional.
No doubt, no doubt.
Beyond enjoying some of the warm weather, because there isn't a lot of time in between sessions and exhibitor visits and so on and so forth, and meetings. So ours was time well spent, and it sounds like equally so on your end, and it's great comparing notes with you today, Tim.
All right, thanks so much. Likewise.
That was Tim Gard, our K-12 editor from the MindShare Learning Report. This is Robert Martelacci, president and publisher, and we're off to catch the Super Bowl party, pre-party, and hopefully a great game.
The 49ers are going to win it, but anyways.
49ers, I'm with you. Until next time, keep the learning curve steep.